Hello and welcome to another gloriously sunny day here in West Wales. So I thought in this video I would talk a little bit about the importance of carving out time for yourself. I think it's really easy when we retire to get caught up in the family and maybe looking after grandchildren, or being a carer, or being in receipt of care. You know, you have these wonderful plans of all the things you're going to do in retirement, and then life just kind of takes over, and you find that you're kind of a couple of years in, you haven't actually done any of those things that you really have been wanting to do and dreaming about doing the whole time you were maybe working full time or bringing up a family. And suddenly you sit down and you go, oh, I haven't done any of those things. I'm going to turn the camera around in a moment, just show you where we are because we're on one of our regular walks, and just talk a little bit about how do you take those projects forward. So there is the woodland that we've just walked through, and then it takes us out to the next part of our walk. And we can't walk across that field because that's a farmer's field. But there's a gate down there that takes us onto the lanes. And we can do a circular walk, but actually today we're going to go back through the woods. And when I say we, I mean me and my little dog Millie. Right, so how do we create a bit of time for ourselves? I think it's very important to have, if you like, a timetable. So you have a set time during the day. So I'm going to try not to fall over. Have a set time during the day when you do your creative, whatever it is. It could be painting or knitting or sewing or anything. I mean, it just could be anything. But as long as it's time that the rest of your family know, you cannot be disturbed. And whether it's 15 minutes or an hour or 2 hours, that's your time. That's your time slot for you, for your mental health, and just to do all those things that maybe you've been putting off because you had a really busy job or you had a big family and they needed you. So yeah, look after you in retirement, I think is my message. And if you watched my last video, then you will know that I'm a caregiver and my partner became a wheelchair user, which is why he had to take early retirement. And the thing that he does and that he's sort of worked out how to do is photography. He was not a photographer before he found himself retired. He was a fisherman, he was a farmer, kind of lots of other things, but not a photographer. So he's found a way with his limited manual dexterity that he now has because of having a stroke, that he can take photographs, he can edit those photographs, and so that is the thing that he does. Now, the thing that I do is I have been trying to reconnect with my love of textiles, and I've been a hand spinner and knitter for like ever, and I sort of can do that sat in front of the TV, not really focusing on it in the evenings. I've been doing it for so long that it's not something that takes an awful lot of concentration for me. However, relearning to sew, and that's something that I'd sort of told myself when I was herring about the countryside, kind of working for different people, repping and all the things that I did for sort of corporate jobs, that one day I would sit down and I would reconnect with sewing. So in today's video, I am going to take you on the next stage of making something that I bought in a charity shop that I'm quite happy if it all goes horribly wrong, because it literally cost £2. So I'm really aware that I was very rusty and I didn't want to go out and spend a huge amount of money on delicious fabric that I then ruined. So come along back to the house and let's see how far we can get. Back in the house in the echoey conservatory, and I have a new microphone, so I'm really hoping that it improves the audio quality, because I was really aware there was a bit of the last video where the audio was just awful, and I kind of tried to mess around with it, but I just couldn't get it any better. So I apologise for the last video, and fingers crossed this little microphone is going to really help. Okay, so what are we doing today? I have my cup of very weak milky tea, and I have the fabric bits that I cut out in the last video. Now, in my last video, I said that you were like my virtual crafting group. So, as you are my virtual crafting group, I would love to know what you're working on. So just pop a comment below to let me know what you're working on. Are you knitting? Are you sewing? Are you spinning? Are you painting? What lovely creative things are you up to? Now, I have got a pile of roughly cut out fabric, and this is, this is going to be a smock or a kind of short dress that I just can be able to put over a pair of jeans. So if I'm walking the dog or I'm gardening, it's not going to be anything very fancy. It is what's called cut and sew. So I will show you what I did the last time I was working on this, which is just roughly cut out these pieces that are printed onto fabric, and it came from just the local charity shop if you're in the UK, thrift store if you're in the Americas. I say the Americas, I assume that in Canada you call thrift shops, or do you call them charity shops? I never quite know, because Canada's one of those places where there's a real crossover between sort of the words people use because of those kind of British links, and obviously very close to USA. So I don't know. Let me know. Do you say charity shop or do you say thrift store? And equally, in the Southern Hemisphere, sort of Australia, New Zealand, I know I have lots of people from that part of the world that watch this channel, and I don't know, is it a thrift store or is it a charity shop? Again, another thing to put in the description below. Right, that's enough of me chatting. I am going to get on with actually cutting this out properly, because I just did a very rough job, because this table that I'm sitting at, that I'm going to show you in a minute, is not quite big enough, well, it's more than not quite big enough, to lay out that fabric and cut it out, because it was a really long piece of fabric. Normally when you dressmake, obviously you fold your fabric, and so you're not actually using kind of that full length all at once. And yeah, it's the first time for me. I'm a bit concerned that my ample bosom will not actually fit into this dress, because you can't really alter it the way you would if you were using a paper pattern and just regular fabric, because obviously you can alter that. As this is printed, the pattern is printed right up until the line that you cut. So if you wanted to give yourself a bit more ease, you would have this white border all the way around. So yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I have measured it, but I don't know, we'll see. Anyway, turn the camera around and I'll show you what I'm up to today. The instructions for this pattern are actually printed on the fabric. I'm making size L. We have discussed my ample bosom, so sort of 16 to 18 UK size wise. I mean, that should be fine, but I never quite know. Anyway, yeah, so cut out on the lines that are marked, and then I'm going to pin it together. Right, let's look at these fabric pieces. So I was talking about the print going right up to the line. This is the size line I'm cutting on, and it already has the seam allowance in it, and the seam allowance is 1.5 centimetres. So I guess in theory I could just do a smaller seam allowance if I thought it wasn't going to be big enough. We'll see. Right, okay. Now, as I told you a few videos ago, it is a long time since I've done any dressmaking, and I bought new dressmaking shears, and gosh, you can tell I'm out of practice because I'm having to cut very, very slowly. And I am ambidextrous with most things, but using scissors, I have to use my right hand, which isn't my most dominant hand. I say I'm ambidextrous. Well, yeah, I write with my left hand, but everything else I pretty much do right-handed, so I'm sort of ambidextrous. So this is going to take me a while. So I will come back to you when I've got to the next stage. Now the other thing I'm noticing about this is that where they tell you what pattern piece it is, it's actually printed on the bit that you cut off. Yeah, I don't think that's a brilliant design really. Oh well, we'll see. Hopefully my O-level textile and design will kick in when I'm putting this together, and I'll kind of remember what to do. I mean, I have made clothes since I was doing my O-levels, because I made my own clothes, or a good proportion of my own clothes, into my mid-20s. It's just, that was quite a long time ago now. Right, this is going to be really boring for you if I just am doing this for the next goodness knows how long. So I'll come back to you when I'm a bit more done. So these are the yokes, the front yokes. Start with shoulder seams, putting outside yoke front and back right sides together. Front and back. Okay, and that's the back. So is that what they mean? Like that? So a shoulder seam, is that the shoulder seam there? Do they mean? Oh, I don't like this. I'm used to paper patterns. I know this kit was only £2, but I'm starting to see why it was only £2, because I think if you haven't made it before, it's not actually that clear. Start with shoulder seams, putting outside, front and back, right sides together. Front and back, right sides together. Okay, so I think I'm stitching down there. I think that's what I'm doing. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I think that's what they mean. I don't know what I'm doing. Well, before I put these on the machine, and they're basically just saying, you know, put it through the machine. No, not doing that. I am going to pin this and sew it, or tack it, hand tack it, just so I am sure I know what they're talking about. Because really, I don't think it's absolutely clear. But looking at the construction picture on here, I think I've got it right. So, and this is what I said about not having the name of each piece actually printed on the piece. It was printed on the bit that I cut off. I think for my next project I will be using a paper pattern, because this is not clear, and I think it should be clear. I don't think it should be this complicated, but I think I've worked it out. Feel free to tell me if you think I'm doing it wrong, because I am not going to get all this done in the next day or so. I think this video will be out before I've sort of finished this project. I think basically what you do is you make the yoke, turn it back the right way, then attach the kind of the front part, which is gathered, and sort of these bits become the shoulder seams, and then you put the sleeve in to that, I think. Oh well, we'll see how it goes. Right. Let's see, start with shoulder seams, putting inside the yoke, front and back, right sides together, seam the shoulders. Right, okay. Running machine back to finish, as it is important that the seams do not come undone later. In other words, make sure you've sewn it up properly. Now, for this bit, I think I've worked it out. So you're going to turn it back the other way. So actually, that raw edge has got no way of going to, that it's going to fray. But I'm just looking at these pieces, and I'm just wondering if I should actually just run a line of zigzag around it, because it's not very fraying type of fabric, and it is a pretty big seam allowance. 1.5 centimetres. Sorry, I don't know what that is in old money. I'll look it up and put it on screen. Yeah, that's quite a decent seam allowance. But this isn't, this machine is not a serge machine. This is just my I would say very ancient. It's not very ancient. There are much more ancient sewing machines. This is my 1990s, just kind of regular sewing machine. So it's not a serge machine, but it does have a zigzag. So I think that might be a thing to do. Well, my friend, I'm sort of running out of time, as does quite often happen on these projects, and I need to get dinner underway because Andrew and I are going down to the seafront. Andrew is taking photographs, I am walking the dog, and it is the most beautiful afternoon. Talk about having an Indian summer. This is, it's absolutely gorgeous at the moment. This is better than August was. So I will take you along and show you what it looks like down on the front in the evenings, because you saw what it looked like in the last video in the morning, because I was down there at sunrise. So we'll sort of be there at sunset. Anyway, see you in a bit. So Millie's just run ahead at 100 miles an hour to go and catch up with Andrew. He's in the chair. It's a bit bumpy on this for him. And you can see what amazingly long shadows it is this time of the day. This could be a challenge for the new microphone because it is a bit breezy out here, so we've got a bit of microphone noise. Anyway, we'll give it a go. Andrew's behind me, just setting up his shot, and we're walking to the end. So I'm just in the middle of editing the footage that I've been recording over the last few days, ready to upload. And I just sort of looked on YouTube just to see how my last video was going. Oh my goodness, I think it's doing the kind of what the kids call going viral, or I think probably as viral as any of my videos are ever going to go. Lots of new subscribers. And I'm really aware in the last couple of videos I haven't actually introduced myself. So if you're a new subscriber, my name is Becca and you're very welcome. And if you're an old friend, thank you so much for the support you've shown me. And I love making these videos for you. I've made a few different videos the last few weeks, sort of lots of different subjects. So I want to make videos that you want to watch. As much as I do this for myself, I also do like to make videos that people actually are going to be interested in. So if you look back over the last few weeks and there's something in those videos you'd like to see a little bit more of, then drop me a comment below and I will try and include it in the next few videos that I'm making. So Until next time, have a wonderful creative week.